You know why I'm your papa? Why I'm your papa? 'Cause I did this to your mama. Do you know why? 'Cause I'm a superfly. Yeah.
Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is our basic human right to be fucked up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Hello, occultists. Welcome to Occultae Veritatis podcast. I'm Richard Bigley. Pronouns are he and him. Adjectives are chaotic and horny. In studio with me, I have
Paige Murray,
Leon Filger,
Ood Gallifrey,
Soundboard Demon.
How are you coughing without a throat?
Shut up. I had something stuck in my quarter-inch jack.
And we got a couple of guests with us here today. We have
Quentin,
Cody, and Arthur.
Right on.
That's not a couple, dude. That's
like three triplet.
It's a few.
It's a thruple. We have a thruple with us. Yeah. So the Bombardier CRJ 200 is a Canadian-built regional jet airliner. Started flying in 1991 and is still in service today.
But we only ever just call it the RJ. If you hear RJ, that's what the plane it's talking about.
So this jet can fly 50 people, 2,000 miles, basically just over 3,100 kilometers. Its fuel economy was actually 8% better than what the designers had expected it to be, and it boasts a 99% dispatch reliability. According to Wikipedia, there are only 10 articles about incidents or crashes involving the CRJ 200, and I guess just over 1,000 of these CRJ 200s were built. To give you an idea what we're dealing with here, it basically looks like just your run-of-the-mill jet. Fuselage sits on top of the wings. Engines are located at the rear, at the back of the aircraft, attached to the fuselage. It's pretty run-of-the-mill kind of small jet. So one such aircraft with the registration N8396A was set to depart Little Rock, Arkansas, and take passengers to Minneapolis. The crew lined the aircraft up on the runway, and then they received a message from the ACAS system stating R 14th duct. And so it's basically the check engine light came on this aircraft before they're about to take off. And unlike, Richard Bigley's car where you still drive with the check engine light, I guess airlines don't or shouldn't do that.
Cowards.
Engine indicating and crew alerting system, or ICAS.
There you go. So this message had to do with the right-hand engine bleed air system. So they aborted takeoff, taxied back to the apron. Passengers were directed to other flights, and the airline mechanics set to work to find the issue to fix it. The problem was very minor, and they fixed it. For those wondering, the number 2 engine pylon on the 14th stage bleed air duct sensing loop had some chafing damage where it passed through the rib of the pylon. I have no idea what that means, but that was the problem.
If I had a nickel, I'd have 0 nickels.
Yeah, if I had a nickel for every time I had chafing damage.
Chafing damage. Plus 13.
I had chafing damage when I went through my skinny jeans phase.
So basically, because the airline had anticipated this aircraft being in Minneapolis, because it would have been there, but it wasn't, and they needed it the following day, that kind of threw a little bit of wrench into their scheduling. So when you have a jet sitting in Little Rock, but it needs to be in Minneapolis for the following day, what do? You call in the night crew. And this is called a repositioning flight. Basically, it's a flight that moves the jet from one airport where it's not needed to another where it is. No passengers come on this aircraft. There's no cargo taken on this aircraft. It's basically just the crew and the aircraft, and they move it from one airport to another. So on the night of October 14th, 2004, Captain Jesse Rhodes and First Officer Peter Cesars spooled up the engines of N8396A and approached the runway. They accelerated and and took off into the night. And now it's time for some poison.
So, what's your poison?
At last.
I'm sure it'll turn out fine.
Yeah, so for poison, we have some port, I guess, that was supplied by our guests.
I totally could have.
Would you wish to
Oh.
talk a little bit about it?
I don't actually know a whole lot about this port other than I really love it. Taylor Fladgate, 10-year-old tawny port. The bottle looks fantastic, and it tastes really great. It's being a port, a dessert wine. Normally they're very sweet, but I find that this one isn't actually overly sweet. So I really enjoy just sipping on this.
It's like nectar.
It has a tasty note of fruit at the front with sweet, rich, chocolate-coated plum, fine oak wood, cherry notes, and a background of acids and tannin. It also has a smooth and silky palate, which is full of ripe figgy, jammy flavors, which persist on the long finish.
This is really good. I don't usually like port.
Yeah, same. Like this, I tried this, and I really love it. So, yeah.
We've also decided to pair it with freeze-dried ice cream. It's chocolate ice cream, by the way.
I already ate mine.
Surprisingly creamy.
It is very creamy.
You know when a raccoon puts cotton candy into water? That's what it does on my tongue, I like.
I like the ice cream. I rate it 7,391 ovums out of 7,392 spermatozoa.
Oh.
Gross.
It's a good rating.
How many implantations?
6 or 7.
Oh, okay.
Give or take.
That's a bad rate.
Lots of ovum.
I don't know. That might be a good rate. I don't know.
That's far too many ova.
I really like the port.
It's Highlander rules.
I feel like Dionysus.
Yeah.
Like I should be a fat god on Olympus drinking this.
Just yonking back that port.
I almost went Chicago there. A fat gad.
Everyone knows that's the best Greek accent. I'm a fat gad of wine.
They also have this at the Costco liquor store.
So you can noted.
Though I think that's the 20-year, and this is the 10.
20 years, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had the 20-year?
I have not, but now that we have a Costco liquor store, I really need to get on that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, this is so good. I give it like a 9 out of 10. I'm probably going to go buy it.
I was talking about Costco liquor store.
Oh, that also.
Both.
Yeah, if you're a wine mom and you want to feel like a barbarian wine mom, get this stuff.
That is how I feel. I am a wine mom, and I do feel like a barbarian wine mom.
Yeah.
You're getting the courage to do anal later?
Maybe. Keep feeding me some port. We'll see.
Big old bottle of lube, big old bottle of port.
That'll be a crazy campaign if they package those things together.
Like
Costco-sized lube.
One may lead to another. Here's a sample pack of lube.
Like when they sell Kahlua with the little bottle of Bailey's stuck on it, but it's just like
It's a port with a
KY.
We know where this is going.
It's just a Mike's Hard lemonade box with a KY jelly stuck in the end.
And for safety reasons, it comes in a plastic bottle.
Wouldn't want to recreate any viral videos. Yeah.
That poor jar.
Oh, no.
That man stayed so calm. He stayed so calm and so in control when his ass was seeping blood.
Oh shit, I was thinking about the My Little Pony in the jar.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I was
gross.
definitely
Oh,
thinking
no.
about the glass one.
Oh, man. That's two different directions of trauma.
Sounds like it's time. Sounds like it's time to start the episode.
When you take a drink from your friend's milkshake and you feel an anime figurine hit your lips. Yeah, bad time.
Shout back to the OVPOD episode
God.
on the worst fucking shit on the internet.
I forget which number. They're all blending together.
Remember when Tub Girl was the good part of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I made Tub Girl seem like a light, happy part.
You're like, this is nice.
Yeah.
So
She's just shitting all over herself.
just shitting all over herself in a tub.
Yeah, nothing problem.
Some people are into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw much worse things. Don't listen to the episode. Listen to the episode, but
Skip past this. Yeah.
I found out what was the worst thing on the internet. But first, now we're going to find out who are the worst pilots in the sky.
Yes.
In the sky?
Yes.
that was case 186 shark sites, by the way.
Briefly in the sky.
We released it on September 11th.
Oh, no.
What's wrong with us?
Oh. We were bad memorial.
We remember.
Never forget.
Never forget all the shocks that when she was a child.
Never forget Goatsy and Bonds I kept.
Speaking of segues.
Yeah, so...
Pinnacle 3701, call sign Flagship 3701, was a repositioning flight from Little Rock, Arkansas to Minneapolis-St. Paul International. The aircraft, a Bombardier CRJ-200, was empty of passengers and flight attendants. The pilots, knowing that they're at a reduced weight and increased maneuverability, try a maximum fighter jet style climb with the aircraft. The plane almost stalls with a pitch attitude of 22 degrees.
Holy shit, that was steep. What happens when you don't have passengers in the back?
Upon leveling off, the pilots engage in light conversation and end up deciding to try out the 410 Club. The 410 Club is a group of pilots who have successfully piloted the CRJ aircraft to its max authorized service ceiling.
41, 410 Club? 410 Club, okay. Do it? I'm all right, let's see if center the club. And
As they near flight level 410, the plane barely climbs as a result of decreased thrust performance and high induced drag. During the brief celebration, both pilots fail to realize the stress they put on the engine. The core section has exceeded the red line limit significantly. Both engines seize, and the plane enters a high-altitude stall. It took approximately a minute and a half after the double-engine failure had occurred before the crew initiated the first item on the double-engine failure memory item checklist. The checklist was poorly executed from the start. The pilots did not adequately continue with the checklist and hastily relied on memory in order to prevent core lock. Core lock is a jet engine failure that can happen on aircraft in flight after an engine stops working for a period. When a jet engine has a flameout, the cooling air no longer circulates normally. If an aircraft is moving slowly, the sizes of some engine parts may change more quickly than others, such that they no longer fit together as designed. If this happens, the engine may seize, making restart extremely difficult.
Captain Jesse Rhodes was 31. Earlier that day, he took his family to the park. They went shopping, did lunch, and finished the night off with a movie with his wife. He got a call at 5 p.m. telling him that he was to fly from Detroit to Little Rock in order to fly this jet to Minneapolis. He would then stay overnight in Minneapolis. Flight records showed that he has 6,900 hours of flight time.
Nice.
His wife said that he was in good health, exercised regularly. His pilot license had a restriction requiring him to wear corrective lenses. He had a Bachelor of Aeronautical Science from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and Pinnacle Airlines hired him in February of 2003. He had received a letter of commendation from the president of Gulfstream International Airlines for landing a jet in extreme crosswind after the jet's landing gear failed to extend.
This is like an above average pilot.
So this guy, he seems to know his shit, to land this aircraft when you don't have landing gear and there's a crosswind and
wheels are on the bottom.
That's right.
I know.
You got
wheels weren't on the bottom. That's the whole point of the landing.
That was the point of the landing.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. The problem with landing without landing gear is your wings come off, and that's where all your explosive fuel is.
Oh, you need those to stay in the air, too.
Yeah.
Well, you're trying to land, so at that point you need them to not explode is what you need.
The first officer, Peter Caesars, was 23. He also had to wear corrective lenses due to a restriction on his license. He was hired at Pinnacle Airlines April in 2004, so just earlier that year. He had 761 hours of flying time under his belt. He also left Detroit for Little Rock with the captain. Simulator instructor who trained him had stated that he was a good pilot with a positive attitude. The instructor also said that he was not concerned about the first officer's abilities and that he would have made a fine captain. But now let's get back to our flight.
Can I just butt in there? That is an awesome name, Peter Caesars.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
That is
Yeah.
Pizza restaurant with that.
It's like Joe Camel.
Joe Camel, yeah. So now you have these folks who are in control of this jet. No passengers, no crew, no cargo. So first thing you'd notice is when you're taking off is that the aircraft would be a lot lighter than it normally would be. So you're supposed to always fly an aircraft with the same care and diligence, regardless of whether you have passengers or not, or cargo or not. Anyway, the aircraft takes off at 9:21. It's about 190 feet off the ground now. The pilot moves the control column and causes the aircraft to pitch up with the nose up to 22 degrees. Now, typically when you take off an aircraft, you're taking off at like 5 to 15. So the pilot does a really sharp takeoff, and that's certainly not a prudent way to fly such a machine.
So at a surprisingly steep angle.
So it's really clear that they aren't flying this with any sort of care, diligence right off the hop. Like, this is literally 5 seconds after they left the surface of the earth and they're already fucking around.
They're like, we got no passengers. We can just bag her a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do barrel roll.
Calm down, Peppy.
And so this extra steep angle caused the aircraft to climb at 3,000 feet a minute and cause a load of 1.8 Gs. So basically almost twice of the Earth's gravity was felt by the pilots.
I'll give you a 1.8 load G.
So this ended up causing the stick shaker and stick pusher to activate. Basically, the stick shaker is designed to warn the pilots that you're about to stall, and the stick pusher tries to push the sticks so that you don't stall.
I've danced under that name.
Yes,
Oh,
stick
my
pusher.
brother, my pusher.
Stick shaker.
Oh, I see.
I was gonna say my brother's a stick shake.
We don't call people that anymore.
That's an outdated term.
So basically a stall is when the aircraft loses lift and gravity begins to take over because the airflow over the wings is not happening like it should. So the angle of the aircraft then decreases, and this causes the load on the aircraft to be 0.6 Gs. Suddenly from like almost twice the Earth's gravity to like just over half the Earth's gravity is felt on the aircraft as they adjust.
I'm getting ready to start working on my commercial rating, and before I do, I want to make sure I'm brushed up on all of my private pilot maneuvers. All the maneuvers that you do and you learn when you're first learning how to become a pilot. And what I realized is there's one maneuver that I've never done while I'm solo, and that's stalls. For whatever reason, it's just sort of been kind of a nerve-wracking thing for me. I've never been scared of doing it when I have an instructor on the plane, and I'm not one of those people that believes that if you stall a plane, it's just going to fall out of the sky, because I know better than that. But I realize that's a common misconception that's out there. So today, I'm going to do something that I've never done before, and that's stall a plane solo. And I put a couple surveys out there on social media, and it looks like about a third of pilots have never stalled an airplane, or practice stalls, I should say, while solo. So if that's you, I'd encourage you, get with an instructor, get comfortable with stalls. I just had my flight review last month, so I'm good with it, I'm comfortable with it. And go out and build your confidence in doing it solo. Now as we're climbing, we'll take this right into a power-on stall. We're going to simulate we just took off, we're rotating, maybe we get distracted or something. 1,500 foot a minute climb. Keep that right rudder in. There's the stall light. There's the buffet. And there's the brake. We bring the nose down. And we accelerate. And there we go. And we took that to a fully developed stall, so we got the first indicator with the stall light. We got the buffet, which is kind of the shakiness or the vibration as the airflow over the wings gets interrupted. And then we let it go all the way to a fully developed stall with the nose breaking down. That's the standard for a private pilot maneuver. The commercial standard is just recognizing the indications of the stall and breaking it early. But we're going to do one more thing, and we're going to do what's called a stalling leaf vault. We're going to go to full flaps, power to idle, and we're just going to hold the yoke back and hold it in a stall and let the plane literally just flutter down like a falling leaf. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go power to idle. We're under 115. Flaps 10. Flaps 25. Flaps 40. And we're just controlling everything with the rudders. There's the light. There's the buffer. There's the brake. And we're just going to hold it here and let the plane do its thing and control everything with the rudders. And now we want to brake it. Pitch down. Build our airspeed. Full power. Flaps 25. We're above VY. Altimeter and VSI are trending up. Flaps 10. And flaps out. Now we can level off here shortly.
At 9:25 p.m., they're at 14,000 feet above sea level, and then they turn on the autopilot. The pilot and co-pilot decide this is a great time to change seats.
Oh?
Yeah, switchies, you know.
Musical chairs
in the cockpit, yeah.
Places.
Yeah, and basically maybe they felt like swinging or something, you know, just let's do different chairs this flight, you know.
Feel your balls sweat under mine.
Jesus Christ.
Sounds like the name of a porn. Musical chairs at a cockpit.
It does, doesn't it?
Patent pending.
Basically,
we've recorded it, so it is copyrighted to us.
Yes.
Sweet victory.
So basically, there was never any given reason for this seat change. Like it was just there was no recordings in the cockpit about why they switched seats. They just switched seats.
Just for funsies.
For funsies. So at 9:27, they turn off the autopilot and they begin to pitch up again, causing the aircraft to climb at 10,000 feet a minute. The pilot then pushes the rudder left and right very hard, causing the aircraft to experience some pretty severe side gravitational load. Now, this is actually within the performance limits of the aircraft. You're not going to break the aircraft by doing this. This is fine. Just if you were a passenger on a commercial flight, you would never experience that. I kind of compare it to like when you're driving your grandma to her appointment in your Miata versus when you're driving your friend to his birthday party in your Miata. You know, you're going to drive a little bit differently in each circumstance, you know?
Yeah. You don't drift around the corner with your grandma.
Exactly.
Unless she's fucking based, you know?
Based grandma.
Based grandma. Grandma used to drive stock cars, so... Yeah, so anyway, once this aircraft was at 24,600 feet, they pitched up yet again. Now, the planned cruise altitude of this flight was 33,000 feet. Pilot radios air traffic control at 9:35 p.m., requesting a climb to 41,000 feet, so considerably higher than their planned cruise altitude. Now, this is the maximum operating altitude of the CRJ-200. So it does not fly any higher than 41,000 feet. It just does not.
Because the air gets too thin and wouldn't be able to generate enough lift?
Exactly. So this is like the highest it will operate. At 9:36 p.m., the air traffic control gives them the okay to do this. At 9:51 p.m. on the cockpit recorder, the first officer is saying, "There's 4-1, oh my man." And at 9:52 p.m., the cockpit recorder records the first officer laughing and saying, "This is great." The flight data recorder shows that at 9:42 and 8 seconds, the airplane was in level flight at 41,000 feet.
They've been flying for like 20 minutes at this point.
Yeah. So how did they get here? Well, flight data shows that they were, in a plane. They just didn't...
Knew it!
Yeah, surprise, that's the episode.
They would have played the whole time.
So they were cruising at 375 kilometers an hour before they climbed up to 41,000 feet. And when they arrived there, they were at 301 kilometers an hour. Aircraft is actually measured in knots, so I kind of switched back and forth between different measurements so that people kind of have a more common idea or frame of how fast they're going.
Yeah.
To get up here, what they did was they set the vertical speed mode on the autopilot to increase the altitude at 500 feet per minute. Now, this is fine. This is a good setting. This is perfectly acceptable, assuming your engines can sustain that thrust. what'll happen is
sustained thrust.
Yes, lots of sustained thrust.
Ah.
So the throttle will adjust itself as needed to maintain that rate of climb. But what ended up happening was the engines had basically been full throttle, giving it their all to get up there to maintain it at that rate of climb of 500 feet. So now you have the engine pushing as hard as it can to get up to 41,000 feet at 500 feet a minute, but they can't perform this way forever. So what happens is the aircraft, because it's climbing so steeply, it begins to slow down. Because these climbs are supposed to actually be done at about 463 kilometers an hour, but they were only at 370 whatever kilometers an hour. So because of this, they started the climb too slowly. And so when they finally got up to the top there, they were flying at just about, I guess, around 300 kilometers an hour. So what ended up happening is basically they're in a very slow position, very high up. They have very little energy on the aircraft. The engines are giving it their all, and it can't give them any more. So as you go higher and higher, the air gets thinner and thinner. And so the air is so thin that the thrust output of the engines reduces. At this point, the laws of physics start to take hold.
Yeah, because the engines don't need to draw oxygen out of the air to ignite whatever the engine's igniting, right? So if you have too thin of air, you're not going to be able to get the right fuel to oxygen mixture.
The report on this flight states, quote, "The pilots did not fully understand the aerodynamic and performance considerations associated with operations at an altitude of 41,000 feet. So they didn't really factor into any of their figuring at that altitude that the air is thinner and that, you need to be more careful with how you operate those engines, particularly to maintain your airspeed to not stall." So at around this time, they switch from one airspace to another. And so now they're talking to a different control tower. They're now in Kansas City airspace. And at 9:53, Kansas City air traffic controller asked the pilots whether they were indeed flying a CRJ-200. The captain says they are. And the controller stated, quote, "I've never seen you guys at 41 there." The captain replies, "We don't have any passengers on board, so we decided to have a little fun and come up here. This is actually our service ceiling," meaning the highest that the aircraft can fly. So basically, the pilot acknowledges to air traffic control that there's no reason for them to be up there. They're just fucking around. And what is the logical conclusion to fucking around?
Finding out.
You find out.
Why would you, like, that's like you drive a bus for a living. You just, like, spend your day off just, like, throttling the bus into the red of the engine zone.
Pilots just
Or like-
want to have fun.
The speedometer goes all the way up to the top there.
Well, I paid full price for the vehicle that includes the speedometer, so I'm going to use the whole speedometer.
I can't use half the speedometer? What's that? Yeah.
At 9:54, it seems that they kind of figured out something wasn't right. Captain told the first officer, "We're losing here. We're going to be coming down in a second here." About 3 seconds later, the captain states, "This thing ain't going to hold altitude, is it?" And then the first officer responded, "It can't, man. We cruised up here, but it won't stay." The captain replies, "Yeah, that's funny. We got up here. It won't stay up there."
Wow.
The pilot contacts the controller, says, "It looks like we're not even going to be able to stay up here. Look for maybe 39 or 37. Basically, the pilot is asking air traffic control to get permission to descend to a lower altitude, being 39,000 feet or 37,000 feet.
For the sweet, sweet fatter air.
That's right. And this is the thing, is like they're seeing that there's something not right, and they're asking for lower clearance. So like they're not responding to this with any sort of urgency. They're still, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
If the shit was bad, they'd call a pan or a mayday, and they've not done that. By
Exactly.
This point.
They're just, let's just get us a little bit lower here.
On their side, you do hear pilots do that lots, where they're like, "Yeah, we have an engine failure. We're coming down for an emergency landing." And they're like, "Okay, how you doing?" We're like, "We're fine. 287 souls on board. We're just running some checklists while we're about to crash." It's like, okay, cool. You're gonna die? Yep, we're gonna die, but we're descending 287. It's like, jeez.
Yeah, I'll panic in the afterlife. I'm fine now. So, yeah.
So at 9:54 and 36 seconds, the stick shaker activates, warning of an impending stall. By this time, they have slowed to 277 kilometers an hour, or 150 knots. So when they got up to 41, they were at like 300 kilometers an hour, and now they're losing speed on this, and they've got an impending stall. So the following 9 seconds, the stick shaker activated to try and stop the stall 3 times. At the second activation of the stick pusher, the flight data recorder recorded a reduction in fan speed and fuel flow. So by the third activation of the stick pusher of the aircraft, it went from 7 degrees nose up to 20 degrees nose down. So you just changed your pitch.
I want to jump in here and just say that the cruising speed of the CRJ-200 is 464 knots. So if they were only doing
270 something,
150 knots,
150.
They were going way the fuck too slow.
Yeah.
So they're not getting the correct airflow over the wings or the turbines.
Nope, they're in a bad position. And so the nose of the aircraft goes from angled up at 7 degrees to nose down at 20 degrees. So there's like a 27 degree change in pitch of the nose. The stick shaker and pusher continued to activate. The pitch of the aircraft went up to 29 degrees then. So they cranked it right back up to 29 degrees above the horizon. And then it entered into a stall. So at 29 degrees, this is basically the jet is acting like a sail, pushing up against the air. It's, a lot of push from the air surrounding it as they're trying to move forward through it. So then the aircraft then began to roll to the left. Now, this isn't any typical roll. This was a big roll to the left. So imagine looking head on at an aircraft, and then it rolls such that the left wing is pointing almost down to the ground. Jeez. It was an 82 degree roll. So, instead of this, it's now like that.
Oh, geez.
So the nose at the same time drops 32 degrees pointing downwards to the ground. So it actually kind of rolls more like that. So they're angled down. They're on the side of the plane, how it normally should be flying. Yeah, I guess now this is their situation. We'll put a pin on that. And let's talk about how jet engines work.
And the reason that the one wing dropped, why they went into a roll at the time of the stall, is that the CRJ-200 has got what's called a supercritical wing. And the way that works is when air is flowing past the sides of the fuselage, if there's any yaw induced at all, and yaw is this side-to-side motion, the axis through the north and south poles, when that yaw occurs, air starts flowing over one of the wings a little bit more slowly than the other. And so that wing will actually enter an aerodynamic stall before the other. And that causes that stalled wing to drop while the other wing goes up. And so they just basically had what's called an asymmetrical stall.
And so quick lesson on how jet engines work. A large fan sucks air into the engine. The air is then compressed and fuel is added. Then this compressed air-fuel mixture enters the combustor, which then sets it on fire, causing it to explode. And then the exploding gases exit out the back of the aircraft, which gives you the thrust to push the aircraft forward.
Suck, squeeze, bang, blow.
Exactly. So the compressor, burner, and turbine are all called the core of the engine. The speed of the compressor is called N2. That's, I guess, what they use to measure it. Like if you're looking at your display, N2, that's the speed of the rotation of the core of the engine. And it's measured as a percentage of nominal speed of the engine. So it's kind of like, how you got your tachometer gauge on your car that measures your RPM. It kind of does the same sort of deal, but for the interior of your jet engines. So it turns out that when you pitch the aircraft up at 41,000 feet by 29 degrees, you create an inlet airflow disruption. So the air that's supposed to go into the engine is reduced considerably. And so now there's way less air coming into the engine that's required to sustain flight and keep the engine going. So what happens next to our pilots is called a flameout. What this means is that the fire that's supposed to explode that air-fuel mixture just goes out because there's no air to sustain the combustion. Now, if this happens in one engine, it's a bad thing, but this happened in both engines almost simultaneously. So this is a very bad thing. You basically end up now with a large metal glider at 41,000 feet.
Betcha has a great glide ratio too.
Oh yeah. You know, if you were in this situation, like what you would do if you're a reasonable, competent pilot is you would start looking for places to land. Now, at this point, they had options. Jefferson Airport was located 74 miles north-northeast. Waynesville Regional Airport in Missouri was located 23 miles north-northeast. Floyd W. Jones Lebanon Airport in Missouri was also located 25 miles northwest. Lee C. Fine Memorial Airport was also located 44 miles north. Springfield Branson Regional Airport in Springfield, Missouri was located 50 miles west-southwest. And Rolla National Airport in Missouri was also located 53 miles north-northeast. So at this point, they had options. Like they could have glided to basically any one of these. They had the altitude, they had the energy in the whole flying system to make it to any of these airports at this particular point.
The closest one is only 23 miles away. Like they could probably reach that.
Exactly. And it's interesting because you could even at this point you could take that jet, pluck it out of the sky in its current position, drop it at just an altitude of 10,000 feet, and they still could have glided to Kaiser Lake, Ozark, Missouri, and landed there. So like even if they weren't at 41,000 feet, if you took them and put them at just 10,000 feet, there was still one airport that they would have been able to reach.
So they're in a bad spot, but if they were competent, they could have corrected.
Yeah, they put the glide path actually up on the screen over there. That's kind of the trajectory of the flight, and you can kind of see where the center dot is. Like there's several airports in that area that they all could have landed to.
So they could have glided to any of them, but what I think you're about to say is they chose not to.
Oh yeah. I guess they didn't, hey? So what happens next? Well, at 9:55 and 6 seconds, the pilot radios the tower, declaring emergency, standby. Over the next 14 seconds, they managed to level off the jet, and at this point, they had fallen from 41,000 feet to 34,000 feet. So there was quite a bit of altitude drop during that, but they've managed to stabilize everything here. There is no fuel flowing to the engines at all by this point. They are out, they are done, they are dead. At 9:55 and 14 seconds, the controller advised them to descend to 24,000 feet, and the captain acknowledged this assigned altitude. And then 6 seconds after this, the flight data recorder stops recording. You see, the thing about aircraft engines is they also provide electricity to the jet and its various instruments and recorders and everything else. So the flight data recorder was powered by the power generated by the flight engines. And so when the engines went out, the flight data recorder also goes out. However, the cockpit voice recorder continued to record because it's got battery backup, so they can still record the sounds going on in the cockpit. So at 9:55 and 23 seconds, one pilot says, "We don't have any engines," and the captain says, "Double engine failure." They begin to perform the double engine failure procedures. These procedures required the pilots to maintain a speed of 240 knots, or about 440 kilometers an hour. The direction said to try a windmill start. And what that is where you try to get air flowing through the engines fast enough to restart these engines. This requires an airspeed of 300 knots, or about 550 kilometers an hour. Now, I think when I spoke, instead of they were last flying at kind of half that speed, at 140 or at 150 knots, so they didn't have that speed, so they had to descend to speed up the engines.
Yeah, the only way they could accelerate is with the gravity.
Yeah, so you basically glide down, and as you glide down, you pick up speed as more air goes through the engines, spins the core of the engines, allowing you to get that restart. And you can easily expect to lose 5,000 feet in doing this maneuver. So at 9:59 and 16 seconds, the flight data recorder powers back on.
Oh, good.
Yeah. they had deployed the APU, which is the auxiliary power unit, to activate, which is basically activated to supply basic power to the aircraft. So it's like a small wind turbine, powering the flight data recorder and the instruments and all that other stuff that they need. So upon powering on, the data recorder recorded an altitude warning signal. The other thing that engines also provide is it's called bleed air, which basically some of the air that the engine takes in gets diverted into the passenger cabin to provide pressure to the pilots, passengers, and crew so that they can, breathe.
And maintain like ground air pressure, right?
Yeah, so
not quite ground. It could be as high as 12,000 feet.
Okay.
But so the cockpit voice recorder recorded a warning about cabin pressure. So when you're on an airplane and they give you those warnings at the beginning before they take off that in a sudden loss of cabin pressure, the masks will descend from the ceiling. Put it over your face like this and the strap behind the back of your head. Please be sure to put your mask on before helping others with theirs. I'm sure we've all heard that, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got one of those situations happening now where the masks have descended from the ceiling. So the pilots are now operating this aircraft with their little masks because they have no engines to provide any air into the cabin. So, as I said before, they have enough altitude and speed, and, there were 6 airports close by that they have reached. But now, instead of discussing where they can make their emergency landing, they are now super focused on trying to get these engines restarted. At 10 p.m. in 38 seconds, the captain tells the first officer to increase airspeed to 300 knots as they're going to try to do that windmill restart on the engines. First officer complies and they start to descend and their speed increases. They get it up to 200 knots and leveled off for 25 seconds. And then a minute later, they try again. They pitch the nose down, pick up speed, and get up to 236 knots. Now, this is lower than the 240 knots stated in their procedural manual, and also way lower than the 300 knots required to do a windmill restart. So they didn't get up to speed to do this. They just went down and down again and picked up speed, but they didn't ever achieve the speed they needed to try that windmill restart.
Still don't have the engines.
Yeah. So when that happened, they then decided that they're going to slow down again down to 200 knots after not doing that windmill restart. At 10:01 and 51 seconds, the captain says, "We're not getting N2 at all." So when I was talking about the speed of the engine cores, he's saying that they aren't spinning at all. So he says, we're going to have to go to 13,000 feet. We're going to use the APU bleed air restart procedure, which is another type of engine restart. And they're going to try and do this. Now, to do that, you need a speed of 170 knots to 190 knots, which, they're going about 200 knots right now. So they do have the speed. They just got to slow down a little. At 10:03, air traffic controller radios the captain about what's going on with their emergency. Captain responds, "We had an engine failure up here, so we're going to descend down now to start our other engine." And at 10:03, at 30 seconds, the captain states, "We're descending down to 13,000 to start this other engine." And the controller replied, "Understand, controlled flight on single engine right now." Now, flight data recorders show that for the next several minutes, they tried to restart the engine 4 times with the APU. But of course, the N2, the core rotation speed inside the engines, remained 0%. They aren't moving at all.
Oh.
So what is notable at this point is that the pilot has left the impression on air traffic control that there is still one functioning engine, because the air traffic controller said single engine.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we're going to keep restarting the engine. Now, they didn't try to correct the air traffic controller. They didn't try to clarify with the air traffic controller saying, no, we have a double engine failure. See, had they indicated there was a double engine failure, the controller would have directed the pilots to an airport, within gliding range. But the air traffic controller thinks that they still have one more engine. So they're like, well, let's try for this Jefferson Airport instead of trying to glide to one of the other ones that were
8 other ones.
Yeah.
But why? Are they embarrassed? Are they afraid to get in trouble?
Right. Like, why wouldn't you speak up? Like,
weird thing
lives
to
are
lie
on the
about.
line. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. I'm gonna correct you.
Yeah.
Well, the accident report from this would later state the captain's failure to inform the controllers about the true nature of the situation early in the descent demonstrated the pilot's apparent reluctance to have their deviation from standard operating procedures and their unprofessional behavior detected.
Oh.
So it's like if nobody talks about it, we can just try to fix it, and we just never talk about it again once everything's good.
He was covering his ass.
Yeah, he's trying to, it seems like he's trying to avoid any sort of repercussions or admitting that,
Disciplinary measures.
that they've got themselves in shit creeks. So,
I mean, I think we've all done that at work where we say, like, oh, shit's fucked. I'm going to try and clean it up before the boss gets back. But, like, our lives usually aren't on the line.
No.
Like,
Yeah, the thing is, with a mistake like this, and I'm certain of what I'm about to say, you get fired for this. This is endangering company equipment, and that company equipment costs $30 million.
Yeah.
exactly.
So they may have been trying to protect their jobs.
Definitely.
Definitely. You fuck up. You try not to tell anyone about your fuck up or broadcast your fuck up over the radio to the air traffic
And
controller.
if they got fired, they'd probably be blacklisted from like every other flying company.
That's right.
Pretty much, yeah.
What's that called? Creating unintended devious motivations?
Mhm.
Like, let's hide the true nature of our emergency so we don't get fired? Ooh.
Yeah, so at 10:06 and 40 seconds, the controller asked the flight crew members whether they wanted to land, and the captain replied, "Just stand by right now. We're going to start this other engine and see if everything's okay." So even at this point,
doubling down.
they're still doubling down on getting those engines going. At 10:06 and 57 seconds, so I guess 17 seconds later, air traffic controller advised the flight crew that Jefferson City Airport was up ahead, and the captain acknowledged this. But by this time, they were out of options. Jefferson Airport was just outside a gliding range of this aircraft at this altitude and this location. So if you look back on the TV, where at the very top there, just outside of those rings, is Jefferson City.
Just like a hair outside.
And that's where they were going, just outside of where they could have glided to.
So if they told the full story of their emergency, they might have been within that bubble, or like things could have been done to get them there.
Exactly. So at 10:08 and 17 seconds, the pilot says switch. And at 10:09, 2 seconds, the first officer finally is in his seat in the proper position in the aircraft, and then advises the air traffic controller that they have a double engine failure.
Oops, our bad. Sorry, I should have told you about this earlier.
After they switch seats back.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, we're falling.
So the controller then asked the pilots if they wanted to go direct to Jefferson City Airport. Captain stated any airport and closest airport. And the first officer then told the controller, closest airport, we're descending 1,500 feet per minute, and we have 9,500 feet left.
Oh, that's fast.
So between 10:10 and 21 seconds and about 10, 11, and 20 seconds, the controller provided information about the winds, approach frequency, the localizer frequency for an instrument landing system. They were going to direct them to runway 30 at Jefferson City. So the jet finally descends through the clouds, and they can see the ground now. The clouds were at about 5,000 feet, so now their jet is at about 5,000 feet. At 10:12 p.m. and 24 seconds, the first officer asked the controller where to look for the airport. Controller advised him where to find it. First officer told the controller he could not see the runway. The controller responded with some more information, and the first officer responded he thought he saw the runway in sight. There was no further transmissions between the jet and the air traffic control tower.
Oh, jeez.
At 10:14:17, the captain says, "We're not going to make this." At 10:14 and 38 seconds, the captain stated, "Is there a road? We're not going to make this runway." Radar showed that the airplane then turned left and headed towards a straight and lit section of the highway. At 10:14:36, the captain stated, "Let's keep the gear up. I don't want to go into houses here." Now, this is kind of important to kind of drive home what was going through their minds. If you're a pilot and you're trying to do any sort of landing, you want that gear down because that's going to absorb the impact of the ground. Wheels are going to help disperse energy, and all that will be, absorbed by the plane and the suspension and the wheels and everything like that. Pilot saying, no, we're going to hit the ground, runway gear up.
Just clunk right down.
Yeah. And so, he says he doesn't want to go into houses. Like his frame of mind is, how do we save or minimize casualties? That's what's going through his head now. So at 10:14 and 53 seconds, the final radar information showed the airplane was at about 0.58 nautical miles southeast of the crash site and had an altitude of 930 feet. Cockpit voice recorder recorded the ground proximity warning system alerting too low gear, too low terrain, and pull up. About 10:15 and 3 seconds, the cockpit voice recorder recorded the captain stating, we're going to hit houses. And at about 2 seconds later, the warning systems alerts again, pull up. And then at 10:15:06, the recorder recorded the sound similar to an impact and then stopped recording 1 second afterward.
Yeah.
Captain Jesse Rhodes and First Officer Peter Caesars were killed in this crash. Thankfully, there had been no other casualties.
Oh, that's good.
The aircraft was destroyed in the crash by crash damage and the ensuing fire. Trees were damaged. A garage had also been impacted. There was a property line fence that was also damaged when the number one engine separated from the airframe after the impact, and some nearby houses received some heat damage from the post-crash fire.
Just comedically, I hope the guy just finished the fence and was just standing back admiring it.
At like 10:15 at night.
My cabbages.
So investigation revealed deficiencies in the training of the pilots. The pilots were being trained at Pinnacle Airlines on how to deal with stalls, but the training didn't go over what to do at high altitudes. Training basically focused on what to do at 10,000 feet, and the pilots were trained to try and prevent a full stall when they started to happen. The other issue in the training was they were taught how to recover from stalls with minimal loss of altitude. Now, this would be the case across the entire airline industry. Like, this is how they were taught. You got to recover from the stalls and minimize your loss in altitude. Now, when you're at 41,000 feet, trying to resist a nose down isn't necessary because you have 41,000 feet. You have a lot of altitude to use to recover that stall. Right. And so there was some training kind of changed through the whole industry there about how to recover from high altitude stalls. Other deficiencies found were the aircraft climbing techniques. They were somewhat discussed in training, but pilots never practiced high altitude climbs, and climbs were not demonstrated. So operation of the aircraft at 41,000 feet was not really discussed at all or demonstrated in a simulator. Double engine failures where the APU were deployed were also never practiced in the simulator.
Seems like an oversight.
Yeah, so like a lot of the circumstances they encountered were never really taught or to these pilots.
And if they heard about it, it might have been like the professor or instructor or whatever just talking for a brief period of time and them not practicing their skills and all that.
Exactly. Pinnacle Airlines also provided leadership training to their captains. The accident report for this incident stated the safety board concludes that the captain did not take the necessary steps to ensure the first officer achieved the 300 knot or greater airspeed required for the windmill engine restart procedure, and then did not demonstrate command authority by taking control of the aircraft and accelerating it to at least 300 knots. So when they were trying to do that windmill restart, the captain should have said, "You're not going fast enough. You need to get us up." And if they were unable to do so, the captain needed to step in and say, "Okay, well, I'm going to do it now because you aren't."
Yeah.
And
cadets, if we're going to delegate, you got to follow up and make sure they did it right.
Exactly. So they found that the leadership training was also deficient in the pilot training program. So after this incident, pilot training had been changed to include dealing with high-altitude situations. Flight manuals were changed to clarify points and improve on climb charts. The investigation also revealed that as a result of their slow speed after the climb, there was actually no way for the pilots to recover from this engine failure. The N2 staying at 0 basically meant that there was nothing they could do no matter what they tried. The reason why the engines didn't start was a situation called core lock. So what happens is because they're at 41,000 feet, the stuff closer to the outside of the engine begins to contract because it's cold.
Right.
But the engines, because they're blowing up fuel, are still super hot. So the components need to have a certain amount of clearance between them in order to spin. But basically the core contracted because of the differences in temperature between all the different parts. And there was too much friction. The blades of the fan, it's like when you grab a fan and you grab one of the blades, it doesn't spin anymore. Same sort of deal. Yeah. The outside of the engine contracted, and so the interior couldn't spin.
Yeah, like the cage that guards the fan blades shrunk to entrap the fan blades.
Exactly. And basically the only way to get out of that kind of situation is to give the engines time for the temperature to equalize throughout the engine. But that didn't happen. No. And so basically they were pushing these engines, and the interior was hot and the air was much colder, and everything changed shape, expanded, contracted, and they couldn't rotate properly, which is why they couldn't get it started. So I've got a segment here from the accident report. Who wants to read?
I can.
I'll get you to get the stuff marked by pen, and then I'll read the last paragraph.
The National Transportation Safety Board determines that the probable cause of this accident were 1. The pilot's unprofessional behavior, deviation from standard operating procedures, and poor airmanship, which resulted in an in-flight emergency from which they were unable to recover, in part because of the pilot's inadequate training. 2. The pilot's failure to prepare for an emergency landing in a timely manner, including communicating with air traffic controllers immediately after the emergency about the loss of both engines and the availability of landing sites. And 3, the pilot's improper management of the double engine failure checklist, which allowed the engine cores to stop rotating and resulted in the core lock engine condition. Contributing to this accident were 1, the core lock engine condition, which prevented at least one engine from being restarted, and 2, the airplane flight manuals that did not communicate to pilots the importance of maintaining a minimum airspeed to keep the engine cores rotating.
So there you go. If you find yourself at 41,000 feet in a CRJ-200 jet with dual engine failure, don't do what these pilots did. So I am Richard Bigley, and in studio I have...
Sage Murray.
Leon Felger.
Rude Gallifrey.
The soundboard, David.
I'm Cody.
I'm Quentin.
And I'm Arthur.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Love you, bye.